All right, so I thought I'd give a little bit of an insight as to how I structure my shops and essentially what foods I'm consuming during the week while I'm obviously training at a fairly intense level consistently. It is worth noting as well, it's not the only food that I am eating throughout the week in this shop. While I'm not eating much for breakfast at the moment, usually it will be around a few eggs. I'll go into more depth probably in a future video around how I structure my diet, meal by meal, but for now it's just a bit of an insight as to how I've done this shop. Dinners, I'm still living at home, so most of the time it's whatever mum or myself or one of my siblings will make. Generally it's, meat and vegetables, like some sort of lean meat, veg, but also could be a rice or pasta dish. Often we think about carb consumption while we're in a heavy training block, and for me, because of the volume of training that I'm putting in, having those meals with some pasta or rice, given it's not an excessive amount, is really important for refueling. And I'll go into more depth obviously in a future video, but for now, I'm just gonna go through this shop, which is primarily gonna be my lunches for the week, and just some snacks so I can not shed a pretty significant amount of body weight while I'm training. So first up, just got some protein milk. Now, obviously it's a critical thing to address in terms of getting your protein in when you're in a heavy training block, and the milk's a good way to do this. Obviously, there's a fair bit of conjecture around the quality of your milk source, and obviously this isn't the greatest. Raw milk, while it is hard to get a hold of in Australia, is probably the best source of nutrients that you can get. Some people say that the hormonal content in this milk is detrimental, and while that may be the case, I think the impacts are relatively minor compared to the benefits of consuming the protein from this milk. So what I'll tend to do is mix this in with raw honey after a training session, and it's a great way to refuel, and it's delicious as well, and you don't get a whole lot of extra added sugar. Coconut water is a big thing. It's obviously hot in the summer months, and the potassium content in coconut water is excellent. What I will tend to do as well is mix some salt through with that, so you get your sodium and potassium from the coconut water. I've got some more coconut water as well. I've seen some pretty elite reviews around this chocolate coconut water. Now, you may be thinking it's not healthy, and look, it's probably not the best for you, but if it's the treat that I can afford myself after a hard session, then I'm willing to do that. It's still relatively low calorie, and I'm looking forward to trying it, but I've heard it's delicious, so that's another thing that could be a staple. Bought myself a mango, can chuck that in yogurt or just have it on its own for dessert. It'll sort of curb those cravings that you might have at night. We get to the meat portion. So often in this heavy training block, I'm going to be mixing the meat with some white rice. So pretty simple form of carbs. The meat's quite lean, so obviously trying to shed a little bit of weight for my run. So the beef flank steak, this is grass-fed, so optimal beef quality. Grass-fed, it doesn't have the kind of detrimental hormones that your standard kind of butcher meat might have. So the flank steak is the leanest cut, and it actually is quite delicious as well. So I'll cook that up in the pan, season it with some salt, and mix it with some rice, and I'll take those to work for lunches, and they work really well. These are some grass-fed lean burger patties. So $10 for 4 for grass-fed beef. And they're really delicious as well. So once again, I'll mix those through with rice. It's pretty simple, doesn't take too long to cook, and you're getting really good protein and nutrient content out of those. And I've bought some free-range organic, or it's the Macro brand at Woolworths, which is the organic brand, chicken tenderloins. So often the hormonal profile in your chicken that you get, if it's not from this brand or organic or free-range at least, is not the greatest. So especially if you're eating chicken, try and source the best chicken you can. These chicken tenderloins are an excellent source of lean protein. They're super lean. There definitely is such a critical place for healthy fats in your diet, and I'm getting that through my eggs and the butter that I'll be cooking most of this stuff in. But while I'm in this phase of my training, extra lean meat is the way I'm heading. And last but not least, an absolute staple, my favorite, eggs. Now, while these are just supermarket quality eggs, and the best quality eggs you can get are the pasture raised eggs, which you can often buy from a market. They are the best, they are the gold standard, but these will do for now. Those eggs aren't cheap, and if you're buying them in bulk and having 5-6 eggs a day, it can add up. But I do believe that no matter the quality of eggs that you're buying, they are such an excellent source of bioavailable nutrients. So that's a critical component of my diet. I'll cook these in butter, scrambled or fried, with some sourdough toast. Whether that's, typically I'm not eating breakfast at the moment. I'll have a light, maybe a banana before I run in the morning, and then I'll eat my eggs with toast later on in the day. So essentially this sort of lunch profile is what works for me. I'm feeling really good at the moment training, but it's not to say that this is the model that you have to follow. You have to experiment within yourself, what works, what doesn't. For me, I'm feeling excellent off eating these kinds of food, and I'm progressing in my training really well. You can use this as a template if you'd like, but for the most part, it's really important that you experiment with what foods work for you. And I can guarantee you that the foods that are gonna work for you are really clean, healthy, whole foods that satiate you and that fuel you for your training. So a bit of an insight. For the most part, as I said, these are lunches, some breakfast, and just some snacks that will tie me over. But yeah, that's what the shop looked like today. Thanks. All right, we're back out here again for the same groundbreaking, riveting content of me running around a track, putting 10 times speed over the shots where I'm out of view. So you guys are in for an absolute treat this morning. Yeah, we're doing our best to get the content. I suppose this was the deload week, so I had Monday, Wednesday at my football club, and volume-wise, it was probably consistent with the other runs I would usually do. But this week only has 4 runs. This is this is the only track workout where there's some not serious speed, where there's some speed involved. So today's 6 400s, where I'm meticulously trying to hit 72 seconds. So I'm not trying to run faster than that. I'm trying to get a good feel for 2K time trial sub 6 pace, which is, 72 is 6-minute pace. So that's where this morning's at. Legs are actually feeling reasonably fatigued. But regardless, we push through. This is sort of the raw footage you get. I've been working flat out. I'm preparing for, going back to uni next week, and it's a tough slog. Haven't been sleeping anywhere near as much as I should, which isn't ideal. But as part of this program, the most important thing is just sticking to the sessions. I've got to head to work for a full day after this, so there's not much you can do. You've just got to get it done, and that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, as much as sleep, diet are critical components of feeling healthy and running well, the only way you're going to achieve a running goal or a certain goal in a physical kind of pursuit is to actually run or do that thing consistently and do it at an intensity that translates over to the task required. So this morning, 6 400s, shortening the recovery a little bit, so 2 minutes 30. We'll get into it, make it nice and quick. Gonna be short and sharp this morning, no extra Ks than necessary. So yeah, let's get into it. $72 on the dot. Recovery's going to go by pretty quickly, so I won't talk too much. It's probably the same thing as usual though. Went out pretty hard, not hard, but faster than the required 72, and then tried to slow it up at the end. So it's not a true rep, but it was 72 at least, which for me is progress. Right, that was 70. Peel it back. Simmer. Recoveries go so quickly, which is good, I guess. Two down. Upper hamstrings, groins feeling really tight, because with footy, you introduce more change of direction rather than just your linear running, which isn't ideal for a deload week, but oh well. We're trying to do something difficult, requires
difficult, consistent action, so keep working. Keep pushing ahead. Halfway.
Shirt off, is enough for OnlyFans?
OnlyFans, yeah. That's a good one. I should, shouldn't I? Yeah. I wouldn't have to go to work. 71. When I'm hitting them, 71's acceptable. Like, I was hilarious. OnlyFans. I wish. Feeling pretty cruisy, which is good. Getting into a good rhythm. Obviously the daunting part is thinking about trying to put 5 of those back to back. It'll come. It'll come. $68. Happy with that. Call it there, nothing outrageous. Short, sharp session. I'll give a little debrief at the end of the week, so cheers, guys.
All right, guys, so we've got the weekly recap, and this was week 4 of the program, and as aforementioned, was a deload week. I mean, the whole idea of having this kind of debrief is to kind of give you an insight into my mindset, how the week's panned out, and just generally my thoughts and feelings. To be honest, like obviously it was a deload week, but still, you know, some volume and some tough sessions. Just pretty tired. Been working my part-time job pretty much full-time hours because it's the busiest time of year. Running obviously a fair bit, fitting in the gym sessions. It's that time of year where you're seeing people you haven't seen in a while. I'm preparing for my university placement, which is in a hospital where you essentially work full-time for nothing, not a cent, but that's all right. So I start that tomorrow. So I don't know, mixed feelings, generally tired, but also, you know, pretty pleased with how things have come along. Running wise, the body's feeling a bit sore, but you know, we push through. Yeah, I feel like it's important that I give you an insight into how I'm feeling and my general mindset. Like, it's tough. Like, you have moments where you know, you're sitting in front of the camera and you think, like, what gives me the right to kind of sit here and document what I'm doing? You know, how am I qualified for this? But you know, I think when you put those thoughts aside and you kind of hope that you have some insight and value to share with people, then there's not much more you can really ask for. In terms of posting this content, I mean, I haven't promoted it on Instagram and in like a short form space yet, which is probably the most daunting task because there are a lot more eyeballs that are drawn to that. But yeah, like, I think since I've really started documenting this, it's been a difficult period of my life. Like, not to really go into specifics personally, but I mean, I will give somewhat of an idea. Like, I've gone through a breakup recently of a long-term relationship, which I don't want to go into specifics of it. It's you know, it's okay. You work through those things, and for me, running is it clears my mind, it keeps me level-headed, and having a goal to strive for, and having to keep myself accountable by putting myself in front of the camera is invaluable. So look, I'd be lying if I said there were moments where I just wanted to sit around and do nothing and sit on my hands and feel sorry for myself. But you know, that's life. You know, you gotta push through those moments, and if anything, you know, knowing that you overcame, you know, adversity, and you overcame those feelings of sadness and grief to better yourself in this situation is something that, you know, I'm looking to do. So challenging period, you know, I haven't really stopped, you know, working a lot. I got back from my holiday, worked flat out, and now I start my placement tomorrow. So we keep moving ahead. I just think, you know, if you're watching this, I think if you're going through tough times and you've also got a lot of external things going on, whether it be work or anything really, just make sure you take the time to really check in with yourself. For me, it's journaling, it's reading, it's having conversations with people, meaningful conversations, and just listen to yourself and, you know, really be in tune with your emotions and where you're at, because for me that's been really important. You know, it's an ongoing thing. You know, I'm working through it, as I'm sure a lot of people are. I'm not alone, but you know, I'm really driven towards achieving this goal of running under 6 minutes, and it's been awesome to be able to focus on that. Not sure. I mean, this is relevant. This is ultimately about what I'm doing, so it's a big part of me. So, yeah, you know, so probably sit here in front of the camera today feeling a bit flat, just tired, and you've got such a big week of training ahead. But you know, I've got 5 weeks of placement, and I'll get through it. It's tough, but I'm not the first to go through it. I won't be the last. So, yeah. But in terms of the week of training that's gone, the deload week, Monday, Wednesday was at my footy club. So, essentially, you do a bunch of footy drills, and the running was on Monday was 3 1K reps. So, still got some volume in. I think the 1K reps were like 3:15, 3:10, and maybe like just under 3 minutes. So, I had to go on the last one. And then Wednesday, the running was my 5/800 session. It just happened to be like the exact same session, apart from the fact the recovery was, they were on every 6 minutes, not every 5.5. So on the grass, a little bit slower. I actually didn't clock all the times accurately. I was running with one of my mates who's at the club with me, and he's a good runner. I think I ran the last rep in 2:22, and the rest were around 2:30 or under. So that was my kind of 800 staple session they got in. Friday, 6 400s on the track every 2.5 minutes, so cut down the recovery a little bit and aimed to go at 2K pace, so 72 seconds, 71, 70, 70, I think maybe a 69 and a 67 thrown in there somewhere. I'll have the reps in the video footage, so you would have already seen that before this anyway. And then Saturday afternoon was just an easy zone 2 run, which was good. Got some volume in, heart rate is improving. And I'm filming this on the Monday of the week after, and today had a good run as part of week 5. So that will be documented for next week. But as always, guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the support of those that are watching. As I mentioned, it probably couldn't be a worse time for me to sit here and start this journey in front of a camera while there's so much going on. But I think it just goes to show that, like, whatever you're trying to do in life, whatever you're striving for, whatever goal you may have, there is never a perfect time to start. There are always going to be conditions, there are always going to be circumstances that stand in the way and that stand between you and your goals. So, I mean, if there's anything that I want to share, or at least take out of this little part of the video, is that there's never this perfect set of circumstances to start something, and we can always come up with every excuse under the sun, and I've done it so many times before. But I guess one thing I'm kind of proud of in this situation is that, yeah, it's been a pretty shitty period, but I planned to start this regardless, and I'm sticking to that. So, yeah, as always, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.